Hi, and welcome to my series called Messages of Joy. My name is Joy Koff, and welcome to Miracles of Joy's webinars. It is my great pleasure and my honor to interview today. Our special guest is Arthur Graye. Hi, Arthur.
Hi.
So
good to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here as one of our participants on these. These are interviews to kind of help people understand a little bit more about what is the intuitive work that we do. And I understand that you are a psychic intuitive. So
Yeah.
What exactly is a psychic intuitive in your words?
My main tool is tarot or cartomancy. It's a journey that I've been on for like 10 years. That's just my main focus is the artwork and the tarot cards. I've been getting visions and having precognition kinds of things and dreams since I was about 6 years old. So I like to consider myself kind of a jack of all trades. I have my fingers in a lot of different pies. So I do a lot of different stuff.
So let me ask you a question. How long have you been doing this professionally?
Professionally, about a decade.
About a decade. And, what started your path? What was it that really, made you go out there and start seeking a path?
Right. Well, I tried to deny it for a long time. I couldn't, whenever I was a kid, there was we had kind of a rough childhood. And so I always had these intuitive voices that would just tell me, guide me to do the right thing, the thing that I was supposed to do. And as I got older, I got away from that. During art school, the voices that I hear became really, really intense. And I did a lot of different recreational things to try to get rid of them, and it wouldn't work. So I really had no choice after that. I just finally tuned into them, and instead of letting them make me feel crazy, I kind of focused them into this whole thing that I'm doing. So.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. What is your motivation for doing this work? What is it? What makes you do this?
I don't really have a choice as to whether or not this is what I do. I'm just glad that I enjoy it. I would just lose my mind if I didn't actually do stuff like this. I spent a long time. I spent about 15 years actually just working in retail and just, denying that I could or wanted to do any of this stuff. And I was miserable. So my motivation is, first of all, personal happiness. And I guess, it's really good to be able to see that look on people's faces when you actually are able to help them or teach them that they're not crazy and that they can help themselves and live their life a better way. So
what would you say your practices are? How do you connect to spirit? What is it that you do to connect to spirit, and how do you work with that on a daily basis?
Okay. My way to connect with spirit, I always said that, okay, so I feel like I have an innate connection, like we all do, okay? I was raised in a very, very religious household, so the feeling of being close to God is not new to me. God or the universe, it's whatever. I just experienced it as an adult, very different than my family did or when we were children. I think that they had half of it right. They would pray and ask God or the universe for something, but they didn't listen. I think meditation is the key to most spiritual practices. I think that it's you need to still yourself and get in that spot where you can actually connect and hear what the messages are that are being given to you. So that's my main way of connecting to spirit. I've been doing this for so long. It's like I just kind of go with the flow. I hear the voices, sometimes I'll get someone will tap me on the back of the head, something weird like that. I just sense things. I just know things. Sometimes it's kind of a constant connection, and I can feel myself whenever I get upset or distracted by other things. I have to kind of recenter myself and focus, and meditation is really the best way to do that for me.
So how do you prepare yourself before you actually do a session? Is there some sort of ritual you go through before you do a session, or you prepare for a workshop?
Just meditation, just finding that quiet spot. When I'm doing a reading, I have some little superstitions. I'll take my cards and I'll always knock on them 3 times just to clear out the energy, or something like that. None of those things are required, I don't feel, but I do feel like it's best to center and ground and focus yourself before you do anything.
So how should someone, I know that you're a reader, so how should a client prepare before they come into a reading with you?
They should, well, you know, readings are very serious things. I was going to make a joke about how they should like eat real light and drink nothing but water, but there's nothing really like that for me. I just come in with an open mind, you know? It's good sometimes to have questions, like specific questions that they want to ask, but that's not even required. Like sometimes I'll just sit down and, unless they're completely closed off with their arms crossed and, you know, like it's obvious that they don't really want to be there, I'll ask them if they have a question. And if they don't have a question, then I'll just read like what they need to know for like the next 6 months. And that tends to work out really well. But it always does help to have like specific information that you are actually looking for.
So I also know that you do healing sessions.
Yes.
So what kind of healing sessions do you do, and how should someone prepare for that?
Okay. So with healing sessions, it's a little bit different, especially if you have like physical issues going on. It's good to stay away from caffeine like the day of a healing session. And again, these are just rules and you can break them. It's not that big of a deal, but it's good to be like somewhat calm. You know, some people come to me and they're just a mess and they can't really do anything to prepare for a healing session. So I'm just going to say, like, just come with an open mind and see what the universe has to give you. I've been a Holy Fire Karuna Reiki master since 2014, I think is when I got the last certification. But I've been a Reiki master since 2010. And I really love that. I think that's a really great starting point for everything. And on top of that, like I've been messing around with crystals since I think I got my first one when I was like 12. So I am a certified crystal healer. We do a lot of that. I use a lot of crystals in my work. I use sounds, toning, tuning forks, different things like that. I'm a registered or certified in theta healing and like the oneness blessing. So my own healing sessions are kind of a mix of all of that. I don't really just stick to one. I kind of get in there and I see what the client is where they're at and what they need, and I just kind of use whatever tools in my tool belt that I feel can help them. So it's kind of a mix.
So let me ask you a question. Can you share some of the feedback that you get from clients in regards to your healing sessions or the readings? Like how are they when you come in and how are they when they leave? There's usually, there's a change that happens with folks.
Right. Healing, like inevitably they feel like they've just gotten a massage when they get off my table. So they're a little loopy. Sometimes I have to make them sit down and drink a glass of water before they actually get in their car to drive off. Some people don't feel anything, and that's just about where they're at and what they're going through and what's going on with them. It's nobody's fault. Then some people say that they notice things differently like a few days later. As far as my readings go, I am a very cut and dry reader. I don't sugarcoat anything. I tell them what I see in the cards, and I apologize if it's bad. But most of the times, like I feel like you attract the clients that you need, and they attract the readers that they need. So most of the time, our styles mesh. I've had a lot of really happy people. I've had maybe one or two that didn't really like what they heard. I know for a fact that it turned out to be true. So that's why, they didn't like it, which is fine. But I'm very cut and dry, no nonsense. So that's my style. And overall, people tend to react very nicely to it. So
I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about the workshops that you offer and why should someone attend those workshops?
Okay, so I have just recently, in the last 2 years, started teaching at different Tarot conferences. I've been teaching at the one in the Northwest Tarot Symposium in Portland for a while now. That's a really good one. But like I think that it's really important to teach these workshops and like especially on tarot or other esoteric subjects, because a lot of people feel like they're alone out there when they're doing this stuff. And when you have these conferences and you have these workshops, they can get together with other like-minded people and not only socialize with people who are like them, but also learn something that they didn't know before. But here in Dallas at Miracles of Joy, I offer tarot workshops. I offer meditation workshops. I taught yoga for a little bit. Just a lot of different stuff. We do like the meditation classes. My intuitive tarot workshop every other Thursday night is probably the most popular class that I teach. We've been doing that for about 5 years. We just have a really, really good time. My kind of my motto, I like to be silly about things. I don't like to take myself or other people too seriously. And if it's not fun, then I don't really see a point in doing it. So I try to make all of my classes a lot of fun for people and just have them enjoy themselves while they learn.
So what would be the benefit of someone attending an intuitive tarot class?
So
what kind of benefit does the client or does the customer receive?
Okay, so we really work on trying to get people to listen to their inner voice. Okay, I'm not going to tell them, oh, this symbol means blah blah blah, and this means this, and because it doesn't have to mean that. When people come into my intuitive tarot class, I try to get them to realize that these things are actually flexible and they're based on their own intuition. A symbol can mean one thing to one person, it can mean something else to someone else, and it can mean a different thing, like three times in a row. When you see it, it can mean a different thing each time. It doesn't have to be set in stone like that. So what we do is we really urge people to listen to their own guidance and not be too overly influenced by other people's opinions, and just really kind of tune in. We do a meditation sometimes where you actually walk into your favorite tarot card and do like a 360, like looking around to see like what's actually in that card. And you would be amazed at some of the things that people come up with. Like, it's just a really good class to really get in touch with yourself. Sometimes, I think that it benefits people outside of tarot as well, because a lot of times people are trained to not listen to their own guidance and those gut feelings that I'm so big on. I'm always telling people, listen to your guidance. You know what's happening here. You're just not listening to yourself. And I feel like this class is really geared towards helping them to hear that voice.
So I also know that you've recently done your own tarot deck. So tell us a little bit, bit about your process of going through it and creating your own deck.
Mm-hmm. So I got together with my friend Matt Gatlin. He's a very, very good artist. And I had him draw the sketches, and I went back and forth with him for probably each card, probably like 3 to 5 times. It took us about 3 years. I finally got all the sketches the way that I wanted them, and then I took them and I cropped and edited and colorized and did all the digital stuff. It took 3 years. It's called the Juvel Mor. It means jewel mother in Danish, and it is dedicated to all of the motherly energy and the caregivers out there. It's all watercolor and pencil, and there's 80 cards. We have 3 different lovers cards. We have the heterosexual lovers card, the homosexual lovers card, and the lesbian lovers card. So it's something for all 3 different kinds of couples. It was a lot of fun to work on, and it's been really well received at this point. It's been out for maybe about a month, so we're still pretty excited about it.
So I also know that you teach Reiki as well, and some crystal healing classes. So tell me a little bit about your Reiki classes and your crystal healing classes, or your crystal classes that you teach.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about what are some of the benefits that people would receive for taking that.
Okay. So Reiki, I suggest Reiki 1 for everybody, no matter what. Reiki 1 is where we focus on healing yourself, okay? And I think that everybody can benefit from that. Reiki 1 is a 3-hour class where I answer any questions they might have about Reiki, and they receive the Holy Fire placements for that level of Reiki. It allows you to channel the life force energy of Reiki through your hands. And I teach you all of the hand positions for self-healing, okay? Level 2 is where we start to learn how to work on other people. And that's where I suggest all the people who consider themselves to be healers or feel like they have a need to be healers. That's what I suggest for them. The crystal classes are always a lot of fun. I don't necessarily teach crystal healing as I was taught in these classes, but they are workshops that present a lot of information about crystals. I visualize everything that I do on 4 levels. I feel like there is the physical level, the emotional level, the mental level, and the spiritual level. And so that's how I teach all of my stuff, even my tarot. I teach tarot, I teach Reiki, I teach all my crystals and everything, all on those tenets of the 4 levels. So the crystal classes are cut into 4. So I have a crystal class for physical level, the energetic level, each one. And we go through each class and we talk about the crystals that can benefit you in those levels. So the benefit from the crystal classes is you come out of the classes with information that you can use to just better your life. Like if you enjoy crystals, some people aren't really drawn to them. They work with candles or herbs or something like that. But crystals work for a lot of people. I've been using them the majority of my life because I really enjoy them, and I really enjoy teaching those classes.
So I have a question for you. I'm going to ask you a question. Someone thinks that they're intuitive, and they're getting messages. What kind of guidance would you give someone that's stepping up in their intuitive ability? What steps should they take in order to take those steps forward?
Mm-hmm. Well, inevitably, I tell them that they need to meditate. They need to get in touch more with themselves. They need to take some time on a daily basis and shut out the outside world, the outside distractions that are keeping them from really hearing their inner voice or their gifts or their spirit guides or whatever, it is that is actually making contact with them. It could be their higher self. It could be angels. It could be ancestors. It could be anything. And so once they do that, and inevitably when I tell people this, 98% of my clients say, I can't meditate, I can't clear my mind. So I have a backup for that too. That's when I give them the mantra. I teach the Gayatri mantra, and that allows them to have something to connect to so that they don't have to clear their mind. Because I'm very fond of telling them that unless you're like a Zen master, you really just can't clear your mind. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's still really, really hard for me to clear my mind. And over half the time I can't do it. That's why I'm so attracted to the mantra, like the Gayatri, because it literally gives your mind something to hold on to while your subconscious or the rest of your mind goes and does what it needs to do or receives those messages. So inevitably, I suggest meditation. And then also being around other people that are experiencing the same thing always helps, because you need a sounding board. In today's society, a lot of people just think that they're going crazy, and they end up getting medicated because they don't know anybody else that's going through these same things. And us as a community, we can help them realize that they're not nuts.
So let's say you have someone who's taken a bunch of classes and now they're a psychic intuitive. What kind of advice would you give a new psychic intuitive and how to get started in their business?
My advice is to be a filter and not a sponge. Take everything with a grain of salt and analyze it and figure out how it feels to them. I don't care if they paid $1,000 for a class. If it doesn't resonate with them, then they need to move on. That's my suggestion for everything in business, in learning, everything. I think that's the best advice that I could have received when I was 20 years old and thinking that I was going crazy because I was trying to absorb everything, and I was having a hard time sorting out what was actually meant for me and what was meant for someone else. Other than that, I mean, just common sense. Just use your mind. If it feels right to you, go for it. If it seems really crazy, then analyze it just a little bit more and see how you feel then. And other than that, like for intuitives and things, if you hear a message that doesn't make sense to you, you need to say it anyway. Because a lot of times that message is not for you. A lot of times that message is going to have uncanny effects on the client, even though you have no idea what the hell it is you're saying. So you have to trust your instincts and let it out. That's my advice.
So I have one last question for you.
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and wrap this up. And my last question for you is, when you're walking in your everyday life, like at the grocery store, at the doctor's office, and someone says, "Hey, Arthur Graye, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that question?
That's always fun. I tell them that I am a psychic intuitive, that I read tarot cards and do energy. I don't necessarily say the energy healing part for some reason. I don't know. I just realized that. But I tell them that I do psychic readings. And sometimes it's fun to see their reaction, like the shock, depending on my mood. And then other times I'm just like, ugh. But I don't know. I'm not around a whole lot of those people that don't know. I think the last time this happened was when I was closing my bank account a couple of years ago at the bank, and the lady was just horrified. So that's her issue, not mine.
Well, thank you, Arthur, for joining us today and telling us a little bit about you and your take on this, what we call spiritual or psychic intuitives. And I really look forward to seeing your deck and other things that you do in the future.
Thank you so much for having me.